Hello students, I welcome you all on the platform of Accretion Law Academy. एक लास्ट सेशन हमने किया था जुडिशरी को लेकर के, जुडिशरी का एक ब्रीफ स्ट्रेटजी सेशन था एंड टुडे विल डिस्कस इन डिटेल स्पेशली वेरी इंटीग्रल कंपोनेंट ऑफ या एसेंशियल कंपोनेंट ऑफ क्रिमिनल लॉ called CRPC, the Code of Criminal Procedure. And in a very elaborate manner or in a very comprehensive manner, we'll try to understand the total number of sections, total number of chapters, amendments or insertions, in addition to schedules. And thereby we'll try to understand and correlate that which sections are or which chapters are more important. And it would become quite easier for all of us to understand and study as per the strategy discussed so far. As everyone knows that this CRPC is a procedure, and almost everyone of you knows that there are two types of law. Broadly there are two types of law: substantive law or objective law and procedural law. So substantive law is very simple. When there is a definition of offense and prescription for punishment. Simple. Offense का definition and उसका punishment is a substantial law. अक्सर हम देखते हैं कि इस तरह के स्टेट जुडिशरी में और इवन लीगल सेक्टर के अंदर कोई एग्जाम होता है जहाँ इंटरव्यू वगैरह होते हैं तो कुछ बेसिक क्वेश्चंस आपसे पूछ लिए जाते हैं, जैसे कि सब्सटेंटिव लॉ और प्रोसीजरल लॉ में क्या डिफरेंस है, क्या प्रोसीजरल लॉ सब्सटेंटिव लॉ हो सकता है, सीआरपीसी और आईपीसी में क्या डिफरेंस है, आईपीसी कब इंप्लीमेंट हुआ था. तो इस तरह का दीज आर वेरी बेसिक क्वेश्चंस दैट यू आर सपोज टू आंसर, क्योंकि डिटेल में तो पूछते नहीं आपसे वो. लेकिन चूंकि लॉ की तैयारी कर रहे हैं हम, तो लॉ की तैयारी में हमें डिटेल में जानने की जरूरत है. और एक सबसे बड़ी गलती जो हम लोग इन कोर्स ऑफ प्रिपरेशन करते हैं वो ये है कि सिलेबस कभी नहीं समझते हैं अच्छी तरीके से. विलियम शेक्सपियर का एक स्टेटमेंट है कि राइट बिगिनिंग ऑफ एनी टास्क इज सपोज टू बी हाफ डन. राइट बिगिनिंग ऑफ एनी टास्क इज सपोज टू बी हाफ डन. So once we make a better strategy and subsequently better implementation or enforcement of that strategy, so your half of the task is done. सिलेबस से एक अंदाजा आपको लगता है कि नहीं कि चीजें किस ऑर्डर में दी गई हैं. और इवन जब आप मेंस में अपीयर होते हैं, पीटी में चूंकि सारा ऑब्जेक्टिव होता है, मेंस में जब अपीयर होते हैं तो आपसे ये एक्सपेक्ट होता है कि जिस ऑर्डर में क्वेश्चन दिए गए हैं उसी ऑर्डर में आप आंसर करें. उसको प्रायोरिटी दी जाती है और उसके लिए ज़रूरी है कि पहले जब भी आप तैयारी शुरू करें तो तैयारी शुरू करने से पहले उसका बेसिक सिलेबस की अंडरस्टैंडिंग, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ लॉ कैसा होता है ये किसी से छुपा हुआ नहीं है. एवरीवन इज ऑलमोस्ट एक्वेंटेड विद द फैक्ट इन अ वेरी वेल डिलिनेटेड मैनर दैट कैजुअल स्टडी कर लेते हैं हम लोग, और कैजुअल स्टडी करके हम लॉ पास कर लेते हैं. या फिर जिस तरीके से स्टडी होती है तो रेगुलर, चूंकि उस समय तक हम लोग इतने सीरियस नहीं होते हैं अपने प्रिपरेशन को लेकर के या अपने करियर को लेकर के, जो यूजुअली हम लोग पोस्ट एलएलबी होते हैं या पोस्ट एलएलएम होते हैं. तो सबसे पहले आप काम क्या करें कि तैयारी शुरू करें. तैयारी शुरू करने के दौरान आप सिलेबस और उससे जुड़े हुए क्वेश्चंस, ये दो चीजें जब आप देख लेते हैं तो आपका डायरेक्शन क्लियर हो जाता है कि आपको स्टडी दरअसल करना कैसे है. या पूरा सेशन फिनिश हो जाता है और आपको बेसिक चीजें नहीं पता होती हैं. अक्सर कुछ क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया जाता है आपसे, जैसे कि डीजेएस के इंटरव्यू में पूछा गया था 2019 में, 2018 या 19 के इंटरव्यू में कि क्या मजिस्ट्रेट सुओ मोटो कॉग्निजेंस ले सकता है अंडर 173 एक्ट सीआरपीसी, अंडर सेक्शन 173 क्लॉज 8 के अंदर क्या मजिस्ट्रेट सुओ मोटो कॉग्निजेंस ले सकता है, यस और नो. तो चीजें हमने पढ़ ली ऐसे सरसरी तौर पे, लेकिन हमें उस समय हम रिकॉल नहीं कर पाते हैं. इसलिए सिलेबस की अंडरस्टैंडिंग बिल्कुल उसी वे में, क्योंकि साइंटिफिकली डिजाइन सिलेबस है ये, तो एक एक करके हम समझते हैं कि जो टोटल नंबर ऑफ चैप्टर्स हैं वो कितने हैं, सेक्शंस कितने हैं और उनमें से कौन कौन सा सेक्शन या कौन कौन सा चैप्टर हमारे लिए पिवोटल है या ज़्यादा यूजफुल है। क्योंकि डेफिनेट है कि देयर आर 484 और 483 सेक्शंस इन एग्रीगेट इन सीआरपीसी। Doing or dealing with every section is definitely a very worrisome task. So how to prioritize or how to make your study, your reading more smarter? क्योंकि जिस दौर में हम जी रहे हैं अब यहाँ आप 16 घंटे 18 घंटे वाली स्ट्रेटजी आप फॉलो नहीं कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि बहुत सारी सहूलियत है आपके पास में जो एक वक्त में अवेलेबल नहीं थी आपको। क्लियर है? तो एक एक करके समझते हैं कि क्या रिलेशन है इसमें से, और एक कॉमन सेंस के बेस पे कि फॉर एग्जांपल कोई भी अगर हम कोई एक्ट पढ़ रहे हैं तो उस एक्ट में सबसे पहले क्या हो सकता है। तो सबसे पहले डेफिनेशन होगा उसका, या उस पर्टिकुलर कोड का नेम होगा, उसका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ईयर होगा, या डेट ऑफ इम्प्लीमेंटेशन या डेट ऑफ इन्फोर्समेंट, एंड डेफिनेशन के बाद कि इफ समवन हैज कमिटेड अ क्राइम, सो there must be a report to the crime to the concerned authority, be it police or magistrate or somebody else. And once the crime is reported to a concerned machinery, so the commencement of investigation, or rather the investigation begins from there itself. And once the police submits the report under 173(2), now there is a cognizance, commencement in the trial, evidence, and so the process goes on and on. So we'll just simply we'll try to discuss in a very brief, in a very concise way. So therefore at least you should have a better idea of a syllabus, and it will be easier for you to understand and to prepare accordingly. Okay, so now we can start. Code of Criminal Procedure 1973, and as I told you, this is a procedure. Procedure means that once there is a definition of offense and prescription of punishment for that offense, so how to administer, or what are the provisions and procedure to bring the culprit to the book or to ensure his acquittal or conviction. Because mere accusation is not a conviction. What are the essentials of the fair trial, speedy trial? What are the provisions available for indigent people, for the people who are very destitute and poor in nature, and in their status? Because in India we follow adversarial system and accusatorial system. It means that once you are alleged, or once you are being alleged to do something wrong, it means that somehow the process of conviction begins from there itself. So, how to administer, or what are the procedure or provision to bring an offender to a judicial system, or rather to ensure his acquittal or conviction, we'll discuss in detail. So this procedure implemented on 1974, 1st April 1974, this CRPC came into operation or came into being. So generally we say that a Code of Criminal Procedure or Criminal Procedure Code 1973, but the same was implemented in 1st April 1974. And if you remember, the genesis of this modern laws, the law that we have been currently following, Macaulay Committee report under Government of India Act, or rather Charter Act 1833, there is a provision for constitution of a committee, and subsequently a committee under the supervision of, under the chairmanship of Lord Macaulay, was constituted. And that committee not only laid the foundation for criminal law, substantial law, but even a foundation for civil services also. क्योंकि सिविल सर्विस रिफॉर्म by Macaulay committee, and thereafter the codification of the laws started. It never means that there were no laws at all previously. So now the question comes, that once the codification began, so before the codification of entire laws, or before the subsuming of existing laws or current laws, which law was there in force? So it was Mohammedan criminal law or Muslim criminal law. Because as we know, that Mughal was a very competent ruler and competent administrator, and they ruled India for a number of years. So before this CRPC or IPC, Muslim law was there, Muslim criminal law was there. And once the new government came, or once the new regime came in function, so the process of new codification or new laws as per the requirement of society or the time became operational. So we can say that this Code of Criminal Procedure 1973 came into operation or came into force on 1st April 1974, consisting total number of 37 chapters and total number of sections, that is 484. So the 484 means that the last one, 484 is repealed. 484 is repealed. So the total number of sections currently are 483. Currently are 483 that we follow in practice. In addition to chapter and sections, there are two schedules. The first schedule, in which classification of offence is given. Generally we say that cognizable offence, non-cognizable offence, compoundable offence, non-compoundable offence, and other similar related terms. So the classification of offence means which offence can be classified in which category, or which offence, what is the prescription of punishment for that particular offence. So we all discuss in detail therein. And finally, that if there are certain insertions or certain amendment in CRPC, even we'll discuss in detail. Like in 375, 265, 326. So what are the recent changes that have taken place in these sections, existing sections of IPC? We'll discuss in detail also. Okay. So we try to understand one by one all the 37 chapters. So therefore you'll be able to understand in a very lucid and a very easy manner. Okay. So let's start. Okay. So let me tell you chapter 1. Chapter 1. Name of the chapter. Name of this chapter. And finally sections. Finally sections. So let's see chapter number 1. If I say chapter number 1, so the name itself is preliminary. Preliminary, and section is 1 to 5. So we'll gradually advance. So the first one is from 1 to 5. Section from 1 to 5, and especially under section 2, the definition of important terms that would be frequently used in course of reading or in course of studying, like cognizable offense, non-cognizable offense, compoundable offense, victim, definition of the code, magistrate, judge, executive magistrate, so on and on. So this chapter is quite important and quite useful for you to begin your preparation with. Okay? So the total number of sections is 1 and 5, especially when under section 2 definition portion has been given. Definition portion has been given. And especially definition means, if I say some important terminology or important terms like charge, as I told you, magistrate, investigation, judicial proceeding, warrant case, summon case, summary trial, police report, pleader, and etc. So these are in detail that we'll be discussing in a regular session or in regular classes. So just to have a brief look or overall a very effective look of this entire code, we'll study in a very lucid way, in a very simple way. So preliminary, as the name itself suggests, it means ki extent of the code, usability of the code, and moreover, jurisdiction of this code. It is generally, if we say that this is a code, so now the next second question comes into mind. Ki if this is a code, then what would be jurisdiction of this code? So in practice as up to now, we generally used to refer that this code is extendable to whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir, or except the tribal areas like Nagaland, Assam and etc. that are mainly protected by some special provision of the constitution. And some sections of this, some chapter of this code like chapter 9, chapter 10, chapter 11 are equally implementable or enforceable even in tribal areas. But because Jammu and Kashmir is a part of India and is no more a state, it has become a union territory. So definitely the new insertion or new writing of the code will consist that this code is applicable in whole India or in Indian territory. So there would not be an exception. Let's say because the matter is already subjudiced under the constitutional bench, under the proposed constitutional bench so far. So number of cases that usually involve larger public interest is under the supervision of, is under the close examination of the proposed Supreme Court constitutional bench. Because as I told you that I do practice in apex court, including High Court and Supreme Court. So a practical dimension, or what is the practicality of this section, will just simply add into from time to time. So theoretical preparation along with practical preparation makes your preparation holistic and comprehensive. Because what generally happens when there is a framing of charge, when there is a matter of appeal, when there is a application for bail or judgment, reference and revision, and some other regular proceeding in a court. So unless you have some experience or some practice in a court of law, it becomes quite difficult for you to narrate the thing it ought to be. So it would be advantageous, rather beneficial for you to benefited by this rich experience. Okay. So the important definition portions, you need to study each and every definition, because the terms mentioned there under section 2 will be frequently used while reading this section, reading the section of the code, and moreover in day-to-day life, being in a court or being in judicial capacity. Okay. So Let's see chapter 2. Chapter 2. So chapter 2 means constitution of criminal courts. Constitution of criminal courts. Constitution of criminal courts and offices. Criminal courts and offices. And offices that consist of, because the 5 have already been done, so from 6 to 25A. 6 to 25A. 6 to 25A means the total number of sections that deal with the constitution of criminal courts and offices is from 6 to 25A, in which 25A is Directorate of Prosecution. Directorate of Prosecution. Directorate of Prosecution. Usually under the Ministry of Home or the Ministry of Law and Justice. And PP, you have heard this name, PP, Public Prosecutor, Assistant Public Prosecutor, Additional Public Prosecutor, and a Special Public Prosecutor. So, while dealing this section in a regular class, we'll be discussing all the important terms and terminology and details. So, for brief understanding of yours, that under section 24, there is a mention of PP, Public Prosecutor, and in 25, Assistant Public Prosecutor. So, the entire Public Prosecutor, or rather the prosecutors in general, would be manned or would be managed by Directorate of Prosecution. In addition to all this, as the name itself clearly states, that constitution of criminal courts, this means what would be the power of a session court, that would be discussing in detail later. But in brief, that under section 9, the court of session, generally we encounter or generally we witness this term time and again, or rather very often. So this section 9, section 20, section 21, section 24, 25 and the 25A is already mentioned. So the court of session, what would be the power of court of session? Who would constitute court of sessions? What is the difference between court of session and some other courts existing in the same court complex? Which are the offences that cognizance may be taken by magistrate or that may be taken by magistrate? I mean by session court. So definitely for session court there is no cognizance of an offence except in certain conditions. In 193 there is a clear bar that the session court cannot take cognizance except under 199 for the same code, under section 199 clause 2 of same code, where there is a defamation related to higher dignitaries are involved. In some special laws like NDPS, Narcotic Drug and Psychotropic Substance Act 1985, or if some other laws are there. Otherwise, generally, be it warrant case, be it summon case, be it summary trial, or be it session trial, generally what happens, the cognizance taken by magistrate and committed to the court of session. So we'll just simply, in a similar fashion or in a similar way, we'll be discussing in detail in regular sessions. So in brief, this section 9 is court of session, and section 20 executive magistrate. Section 20 is executive magistrate, and 21 is special executive magistrate, 24 public prosecutors, and 25 assistant public prosecutors. And once the preliminary, the definition part has been done, once there is a constitution of criminal courts, now we'll just simply move to a next level, or rather a higher level, that what would be the power of that courts, because the courts has already been constituted. So now the power of the courts would come into being. So we'll discuss. In chapter 3, we'll discuss this power of courts. Power of courts. And that would be from 26 to, tell me, 26 to 35. 26 to 35. This will be a special power of court, including session court, high court, and successor appointed by them. So we can mention here that under 26 to 35, session court, high court, and their successors in office. Their successors. So what will be the power of session court? Especially in dealing this bail related section under 436 to 450 of the same code, we'll be discussing in a very detailed way that what is the power of a session court, power of a high court while granting bail, and we'll discuss in detail in reference and revision section the power of a high court, and moreover under 482 and 483 of this code, the power of high courts. So this section is quite useful for you to know how to relate this power with upcoming powers. That in course of reading or in course of studying would come time and again. जैसा ब्रीफली हमने कहा आपको कि सेशन कोर्ट का क्या पावर होगा, हाई कोर्ट का क्या पावर होगा. इनकेस सेशन कोर्ट को जो पावर दिया गया है, सेशन जज अगर फंक्शन में नहीं है तो उस कंडीशन में कौन उसको डील करेगा? उसको क्या वो जो सिमिलर क्वांटम ऑफ पनिशमेंट जो एक सेशन कोर्ट डिटरमिन करता है, उसके एब्सेंस में जो सक्सेसर है वो कर सकता है या नहीं कर सकता है? तो सिमिलर पॉइंट ऑफ आर्गुमेंट विल डिस्कस इन डिटेल इन रेगुलर सेशन. So in brief, that the power of courts is given under section 26 to section 35. And now the fourth one is that the power of superior officers of the police. Fourth one is powers of superior officers of the police. Powers of superior officers of the police. Powers of superior officers of the police. In addition to aid to police and magistrate. Police and magistrate. That would be from 36 to 40. Where 36 is mainly about the power of superior officer of the police, in which we would be studying in detail a hierarchy of the police administration or police officers in a district or in UTs, Union Territories, in which we'll discuss in detail hierarchy of police officers. Police officers in UT, okay. Generally we say that DGP is the highest officer of the police in a state. So DGP, then IG, then DIG, then SSP, then SP, then ASP, then DSP, then inspector, then sub-inspector, then assistant sub-inspector, then head constable, and then constable. So these are the brief hierarchy of the police system that generally we follow in our state or in our country. But in case of UTs, Union Territories, this hierarchy differs a bit. How? Because here ACP is equal to DSP in a state. And here is no term of the so-called DGP, but we have CP, Commissioner of Police. So we'll be discussing in detail in that section. Basically, this power of superior officers of the police and how to aid or how to assist the police and magistrate in performing their functions or their duties. Because especially under section 39, that the public to give information of certain offences. Public to give information of certain offences. To whom? So either to magistrate or to the police. And now comes chapter 5. Now comes chapter 5. Chapter 5. So once the power of superior officer of the police is mentioned or is clearly delineated, so now question comes that what is the power of a court? What is the power of courts we have already discussed. So how to arrest the people? The power to arrest. So the next chapter is power to arrest. Power of arrest. And that is from 41 to 60. 60A. Chapter 5, that is power of arrest, is given under section 41 to section 60A. In which 41 में clearly mentioned है कि पुलिस में अरेस्ट विदाउट वारंट. पुलिस में अरेस्ट विदाउट वारंट. Because generally what happens कि police cannot arrest without warrant. So under section 41, that when police may arrest without warrant, especially in cognizable cases. इन कॉग्निजेबल केसेस में पुलिस बिना वारंट के आपको अरेस्ट कर सकती है, या पुलिस किस किस केस में आपको अरेस्ट कर सकती है, उसका डिटेल हम लोग रेगुलर सेशन में करेंगे. इन एडिशन टू अंडर 41D that right of arrested person to meet an advocate of his choice during interrogation, and equally supported by section 303 of the same code. यानी कि किसी एडवोकेट को किसी भी एक्यूज्ड से मिलने का राइट है, या अगर किसी भी एक्यूज्ड को किसी भी एडवोकेट से, स्पेशली द एडवोकेट ऑफ हिज चॉइस, ये उसका जेन्युइन राइट, जेन्युइन लीगल राइट है इन कोर्स ऑफ इंट्रोगेशन या फॉर एनी एडवाइस या इन ऑर्डर टू डिफेंड हिज कॉज. तो किसी एडवोकेट से कभी भी मिल सकता है, स्पेशली इन कोर्स ऑफ इंट्रोगेशन, दो नॉट थ्रू आउट द इंट्रोगेशन. पूरा इंट्रोगेशन के दौरान नहीं मिल सकता है, लेकिन इंट्रोगेशन के दौरान वो मिल सकता है. और इसका मेंशन 303 में भी है, सेक्शन 303 में भी है कि अपने राइट को डिफेंड करने के लिए कोई भी एक्यूज्ड अपने पर्सनल चॉइस के एडवोकेट से मिल सकता है. और अगर ऐसा नहीं है, फॉर एग्जांपल वो इंडिजेंट है, अगर वो अफोर्ड नहीं कर सकता है, तो 304 में उसका प्रोविजन है कि दैट द कोर्ट कंसर्न्ड वुड प्रोवाइड हिम एडवोकेट एट द स्टेट एक्सपेंसेस और एट द स्टेट कॉस्ट. क्योंकि जब तक कि उसको एडवोकेट प्रोवाइड नहीं किया जाएगा तो फेयर ट्रायल वुड बी